Hello, everyone. It is class 2. It's so fun to log in and live and see people already in the chat and people waiting, and just gets me really excited. So welcome. Hey, let me know. Anyone? Let me know if it's better. Man, we're just going to try to make it work. Fingers crossed that this is better. Okay, because we've got important stuff to talk about. And one thing I wanted to address that I didn't address yesterday is we got this pandemic going on, and a lot of people don't have access to childbirth classes. Oh, yay. Okay, it sounds like it's better. Kim just said it's better. We're in this pandemic. A lot of childbirth classes have been canceled, and I have heard from several people that this class is accessible, and that is really the intention of the class. It is, I want it to be free, open to everyone. If you have friends and family that, or coworkers or forums, anybody who you think could benefit from the class, please feel free to share. That would be so great. I'm glad the video is better. I switched some things up on my end. Let's talk about what our plan is today. We are talking about, we're going to follow the same strategy that we did yesterday. Also, if you miss any classes and you want to know, there's an easy way to get to missed classes. So I have my logo up here on the side, that side. Oh my gosh. You guys see the logo, Supporting Her logo. So Supporting Her is the signature class, that online class for partners that I teach and sell. So I created a short URL using that class name, Supporting Her /class. So if you miss class 1, that's how you'll get to it. If you miss class 10, that's how you'll get to it. So just want to make something really easy so that everybody can get what they need. Now, just like yesterday, we are following in together. You and I, we are working on 3 different sections of this class, okay? We've got a kind of an anatomy section, how birth works. And yesterday we talked about let me know. Oh, I have it. I almost lost it. Yesterday we talked about the cervix, right? And today we're talking about the baby, okay? So today we're talking about the baby. Our second part of the class is when we go through coping strategies. So that's one of my favorite things to teach, because I want everyone to walk into labor ready to go with some easy to remember go-to strategies. Let me know if you remember a strategy, if anybody was here last night, and I know a lot of people were, that you learned yesterday. So we're going to talk about one of my favorite strategies. I'm not going to mention it yet till we get to it. I'll keep it a little secret. And then after that, we're going to do practice and questions. So we've got lots of people here in the chat. Yay. Oh my gosh. Look at this. We've got Autumn, horse lips. Yeah. A lot of people remember horse lips. Yep. Monique remembered that we talked about the cervix, of course. Jeff remembered loosey goosey. Loosey goosey. I've got to add that to my handout. Got to add that one. Ooh, Simone says resting hands. Yes. Ah, makes a teacher so happy. I love it. I love it so much. Okay. Yes. And Tabitha says, can fellow doulas answer? Yeah, doulas can answer. You guys can chat it up. Everyone is welcome here for sure. Okay. I just got a text about the video quality too. I have a few people on the outside that are trying to help me out here. I love it. Okay, guys, we're talking about the baby. And I like to talk about the baby, not maybe some of the information that you might be thinking about, the fun stuff about after the baby comes. But I really want to talk about the baby when the baby's inside, okay? The baby has quite a lot to do with how labor goes, both the speed and how labor feels. A lot of it has to do with baby. This model probably looks really weird. I'm going to show it to you in slow-mo. Okay, so we've got, can you guys see the baby in here? You can probably see the cord. Actually, let me turn off that slide. This is the placenta. Okay. I imagine that your baby does not have a drawstring. It is a weird model. I'm just going to give you that. Like, when I show this to people, a lot of times they're like, what is that? But it is helpful in demonstrating what is going on. So inside, the tan is our uterus covering baby, inside where baby is living. And then inside of that is our amniotic sac, right? So it's our sac of fluid. And then I'm going to go ahead and peel out the baby. And we have our cord, which I'm going to go ahead and cut the cord so we can talk to baby. But I wanted to show you those layers because they are all very important when we talk about our baby. Now, you probably at your childbirth appointments have a check-in on the baby, right? And that is with a Doppler to do heartbeat. So heartbeat is one of our really quick checks on how baby is doing. You yourself, once you're pregnant enough, people can start feeling kicks and movements around with the baby. Of course, that just gets bigger and bigger. And it differs on when people can feel the first kicks, whether they are in the teen weeks, 14, 15, 16, or into the 20s. So it differs. But at some point, right around week 30-ish, really babies start staying in one position more than the other. And by position, what I'm talking about is where their head is and where their feet are, head and feet, okay? So babies usually like to kind of settle into a position right around the 30-week point. And the position that is optimal, that is ideal as far as where their head is head down, right? So head down, inside, maybe here, maybe there, but head down. I sometimes as a childbirth educator, I struggle with how in depth do we want to go into this? What do people really need to know? What do they really want to know about these topics? And one thing that I think is really important is that your care provider has an awareness, checks, talks to you about the position of your baby when you get close to that 30-ish week appointment. And the way that they can do that is to feel your belly, to talk about where you're feeling kicks, to talk about where you're feeling maybe something hard and round that might be the head. And I say this all because it has become a practice that care providers, and when I say care providers, I mean your OB doctor or your midwife, whoever you're seeing to take care of you and who will catch the baby, okay? It has become a practice that a lot of care providers are not hands-on on those appointments and really don't do a lot of belly palpitation, feeling your belly. And we see midwives be more hands-on usually in general, but not always. And I want to encourage you to have those conversations with your care provider about where do they think the baby is. And the reason for this is because if baby is not in that ideal head down position in those final weeks of pregnancy, and the baby is in a breech position, and there's a few different breech positions that they could be in, like this, they could be like this. It is harder to get a baby, convince, encourage, or turn a baby the further you are, or the closer you are to your due date. So baby's bigger, there's less fluid in there, and the sooner you know, the better. So I say this because this is one of the main things I want everyone to have a takeaway is have a conversation and have some general knowledge of where you're feeling your baby. What kills me is when I have someone come to me during a class or a doula client, or less that than class, or just get an email and they're like, I'm 38 weeks pregnant and my baby's breech, what can I do? So the options that you have are kind of start going down some as you're that close to your due date. So let me know in the chat. Chat is very quiet right now. About if you, hello, if that makes sense, right? So about having that conversation with your doctor, having that conversation with your midwife, where is baby? Now, if baby is in a breech position, there are some things that can be done. And there is a lot of research around what works, what doesn't work. There's some positioning things that you can do. They like being inverted. You can do chiropractic. There is a chiropractic maneuver that can help Webster's position. There is some acupuncture. Okay. So there is a lot of, not a lot, but there are options to do for breech. And I'm going to put some more resources down below for that. But again, find out early. Okay, so position of the baby has a lot to do with how labor goes. Now, the baby, yes, spinning babies. Yes, that's one of my resources. Tabitha, thank you. Let me put that up on the screen so people can see it. There's a website called Spinning Babies. And this awesome doula educator named Gail Tully, that is her life. She is a specialist in this. And so her website is just chock full of great info. She's definitely my go-to for that information, even as a doula. So position of the baby really matters. Head down or head up. Now, is anyone asking like, well, do I have control over this? Like, how can I encourage? Should I be doing something special? Should I be, sitting a certain way or avoiding something? There isn't really any definitive research on what you can do yourself to turn the baby. So it's very, it's not something, it's still a mystery in there. It's still very mysterious. Okay. Some things that I would encourage you to do, just in general, try to have good posture when you're pregnant. Duh, we all need to have good posture, right? I say that to myself every day. Seeing a chiropractor during pregnancy can help with baby's positioning. And sitting on the birth ball for some time of the day, some periods during the day, can sometimes help with engaging the head. Also, you guys in chat are awesome. I saw, thanks for helping each other out. That's amazing. So there are some things we can do, but the best thing is to talk about it. Now, it's not just, so breech babies are usually delivered via C-section. Not always. but it is no longer taught in medical school how to deliver a breech baby. So we are seeing that as less and less of an option. However, it really, I'm speaking mostly for the US. It does differ in other places of the world. So not just head down, but the other thing we talk about when it comes to the baby, as far as position, is which way is the baby facing? Is the baby facing? I'm going to turn this way. So imagine baby is inside. Is the baby facing posterior? So the baby is facing my back? Or is the baby facing anterior? So looking this way. Babies facing this way, when they are born, sometimes you'll hear them called sunny side up. They're also called OP, occiput posterior. And this is a tricky wicket, sticky wicket. Who says that? That just came to me. This is this is complicated when babies are in this head up OP position. Again, it's kind of the same thing as breech. There are some things we can do. We don't really know exactly. But when babies are in this position, there are some clues that let us know that this is what's going on with labor. First of all, labor can often be a lot slower if babies are in that OP position. And the pattern of labor can also be totally thrown off. Now, tomorrow we are talking about contractions and contraction patterns. So I'm going to bring this up again tomorrow. But an OP baby, a baby facing up, sunny side up, often will have some weird contractions. Now, I am talking a lot and sending lots of information to you. How are we doing? Are you guys following? Are you getting some good info on baby's position? Let me know. Do you have questions? The other thing that happens with a sunny side up baby is that this hard part of their head can hit some uncomfortable spots inside that can cause back pain. So back pain is one of the clear signs, or not clear, but one of the signs. Yay! You guys are awesome. Thank you for the feedback in the chat. Back pain is one of our indications that, ooh, baby might be in that OP position. So when we talk about positions in labor, that's a couple days from now, I will refer to OP position. Okay. I have a neighbor that's like really close. And if I don't close the blinds, I always think they're going to look over and think, what the heck is that woman doing? And is that a real baby? Right? It looks pretty real. It is hard. Oh, you know what? I know we have a great question section at the end, but my eye just caught a really great question that I want to bring up. Lisbeth said, is there anything we can do at home to find position since in-person appointments are so sparse? Oh, this is such a great question. And man, these in-person appointments, they are challenging. Not usually being able to bring your partner and not being able to have as many, right? That's challenging. So there are some things that you can do. And actually that Spinning Babies website has a lot of information on trying to figure out how diagnose, where your baby is. My only caveat to that website is that it has a lot of information and it can be hard to navigate through it without getting confused. But I'll tell you, a lot of it has to do with where you're feeling kicks. If you're feeling kicks kind of all over in the top range, let me close this. If you're feeling kicks sort of this whole area here and feeling more of a hardness below, then it's more likely that your baby is head down. If you are feeling a very hard sort of mass right under your ribs or right at your ribs, and feeling more kicky, kind of fluttery below, more fluttering down near the bottom of your abdomen, then it would be more likely that your baby is breech. But I will tell you that even as a doula, a childbirth educator, and I've been pregnant 4 times, it can be kind of tricky. It's kind of like, kind of feel a mass, kind of feel a mass. I'm not sure what I'm feeling. So be patient with yourself if you don't know exactly where it is. But sometimes you can get an idea. Yes. Now here's the thing. The posterior and anterior, they can change. Babies move around in labor. So if your baby is sunny side up going into labor, doesn't mean that they'll stay this way. They make a lot of movements through the pelvis. Okay, pelvis is my next example or piece of equipment I want to introduce you to. Yesterday, we talked about dilation and effacement, right, for the cervix. We also talked about the position of the cervix and the consistency. Do you guys remember that? The other thing that shows us if labor is progressing is called station. Station is what we call the relation of the baby to your pelvis, okay? So this pelvis, while it is very realistic, it does have one big flaw that our pelvis has, and that is our pelvis has joints. It's jointed, so it moves. So this moves some. You can imagine, your pelvis changes shape. This one does not. However, it is very similar in the fit in that it's not just a easy movement to get baby all the way through. So this is a process. And in order for us to number the process, get an idea of where baby is, we have a numbering system called station. Now, if you guys are following along in the companion book, I want to give out take one pause to give out, the page numbers. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I have a companion book that I always, when I teach an in-person class, all of my students get that book. And there's a link down below if you want to grab that. And I was thinking after class last night that I probably didn't talk about the book that much because this book is really worth it. And you can get it digitally or physical copy. So pages to check out: page 5, page 12, and page 26. Okay? 5, 12, and 26 are great references. Now, let's go back to station. There's a great piece of information on the station that is worth looking at. So station starts off above, not engaged. Do you know what they call this? Does anybody know what they call? The baby is in fluid before the baby's head has dropped or engaged. You guys have probably heard both of those terms. It's called floating, which I love that because it's in water, right? So before baby's head has dropped, the baby's head is floating. Now, this is when I always find, how people like to comment on pregnant people, like strangers will say, comment on your belly. Wow, you're so big, you're probably due any day, oh, looks like the baby has dropped. Next time you hear that, you can just say, no, my baby's still floating. And you will be right. Well, if the baby hasn't dropped. Okay, enough of my comedy act here. So when the baby's up here, -5, -4, -3, goes all the way to 0. Baby is at 0 station when the top of their head is in the middle of this pelvis, right at the ischial spines. That means baby is halfway through the pelvis at 0. After 0, that's when we start doing plus, 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 +5, baby's head is all the way out. Okay. So because those increments are so small, it's very common when you get a cervical check, pelvic exam, vaginal exam, that there won't be a lot of change. So say it's very common to go into labor and maybe if your baby's head has engaged, -2, and then lots and lots of labor, -1, lots and lots of dilation and effacement, 0. And it's not uncommon that people can push at the 0 + 1 time area, that the air is actually pushing, that the cervix is all the way dilated at this time. Okay, so here's our cervix, dilated, but baby is still midline through the pelvis. So I say all this. Do you have to know all of this anatomy to have a positive birth experience? Probably not. I think it's good to know it. I think it's good to have some knowledge of what's going on. One thing that's important, besides trying to figure out which position, if your baby's breech, if your baby is vertex, when the baby's head down, the lower the baby is, the more pressure the baby puts on the cervix, okay? So if you have a very high baby, you might not be dilating as fast as someone with a lower baby. And as the baby gets lower and puts more pressure on the cervix usually dilates faster. So keep that in mind as far as how things are progressing. The other thing that we definitely need to talk about when we talk about the baby is the amniotic fluid. Okay, so imagine the baby is in this amniotic fluid sac still, imaginary sac, and pushing on a cervix. Let's do a closed cervix here. Remember our closed cervix? If the baby has a bubble of water between its head, oh, lift up my props more. Thank you, Tabitha. If the baby's head is pushing on a sac of water, which is pushing on the cervix, there's not a whole lot of pressure there, okay? And when that bag of water breaks, and we're going to talk about how it breaks, but when it breaks, there's more pressure. And so usually there's more labor that happens. The oxytocin, the chemical, the hormone that comes from the cervix opening, it increases and contraction increases. And we're going to talk contractions tomorrow. So sometimes people talk about, oh, when my water broke, things really got serious, or the pain really increased, or, action really happened. A lot of that is because the baby's head is now putting a lot of great pressure, see what I said there? Great pressure on the cervix. I like to talk about labor. It almost feels like backwards day sometimes, because we want increased pressure. We want increased contractions. All of that is positive, even though it sounds kind of negative if it increases pain. Okay, let's talk about the water breaking. The water breaking is our last piece of this puzzle. I'm going to put baby down for a second. It's fine. The water breaking, I feel like, is the thing that's so wrong. It's so wrong in all the movies and TV, and just I can't stand it. So I want to make like a billboard up, put a billboard that's like, your labor doesn't usually start with your water breaking. It just doesn't. Now, sometimes it does. Remember yesterday, I talked about how there's a spectrum of normal in labor. It can go the whole spectrum. So the spectrum of water breaking can go from it breaks before contractions ever start. So that's actually called premature rupture of membranes. You might see it called PROM. And then it can go all the way to where your contractions your water stays through birth, like baby born in the sac. Now, a lot of care providers don't prefer that. If that happens, they get a little uncomfortable with that scenario, but it can happen. It has that whole spectrum. Okay. So, but the two things that we want to think about is letting our water break on our own and having your care provider break that sec. And I would, every time I describe it, it sounds worse than it is. As far as pain, having your water broken is usually very little pain, though it does require a vaginal exam and an instrument that looks kind of like a long, thin crochet hook being inserted where it snags the bag. My chat is really quiet. Either I'm riveting or you guys are getting anxious about talking about the bag of water. You know how it happens in the movies, right? It's like, oh, it's just the middle of the day and all of a sudden they look down and there's a puddle. It doesn't happen like that. Okay. It doesn't. And I'm sure somebody has a cousin whose water broke when they were out to eat or something, but it just doesn't usually happen like that. So your water can be broken by your care provider and it can break on its own. So Monique is focused. Yay. Spontaneous rupture of membranes is when your labor just breaks on its own. And it's pressure. It's the pressure usually of a contraction. Maybe the baby moves just right. We don't know exactly. We're guessing on a lot of things. And it breaks. So usually your water breaks if it breaks on its own sometime when labor is strong. So it doesn't tend to break in the beginning. It can, but it usually tends to break when labor is strong. And so Simone says that her water broke while she was sitting on her mom's bed. Yes, so it can happen. Not in a supermarket necessarily, but water. So the question, what I want you guys to think about and know about is why would we have someone break our water? Like, what's that for? What it really is for is to help speed up labor. So it has some positives and some minuses. If labor is slowing down, your care provider might suggest breaking the water. And breaking the water, of course, like I just mentioned, it's going to remove that water barrier from in front of the baby's head and allow the baby to put more pressure on the cervix. That is generally the reason. But to be perfectly honest with you, some care providers do break water just as a standard to do. And it's why I always like to teach informed consent and decision making. And we are going to go in depth into this so that you can make these decisions so that they're right for you. But that is usually the reason. Now, this is such a great question, Shannon. Why do doctors want to speed up labor so often? Now, I can't speak for all care providers or care providers in general. But when I talk to them, usually they are suggesting it as a help, to be helpful to you, your labor, make sure that things move along in a good speed. That's generally what you hear. But that's a great question to ask your doctor or midwife, to say, okay, you want to break the water to speed up labor. Well, what's the reason behind it? So, okay. I have done a lot of this, our first How Birth Works section. The baby, I could talk forever about the baby. We're going to have a question time. So if you guys have questions on this topic, let me know and we can follow up. we're going to do a very quick game show to see. Let's see, I got to get my, you guys get your typing fingers ready while I get my sound effects ready. Okay, oops. And the first, so if you weren't here yesterday, I'm going to ask some true or false questions. I want everyone to participate because it's more fun. Put true or false or T or F in the chat and we'll see. Okay. Once the baby drops, whoops, dropped my phone. Once the baby drops, labor will begin soon. Labor will begin soon. What do you guys think? Ding, ding, ding. Oh. Yeah, you guys are good. Could be days, could be hours, could be weeks. It's a range of normal. Okay. Movement of the baby is easier when the membranes are still intact, meaning you still have your amniotic sac, your water hasn't broken. Movement is easier for the baby. Yes, if you guys guessed true, you were right. You can imagine baby trying to move in there, right? Have fluid. That's a lot easier. Okay. Babies in breech position have to be born via C-section. Have to, in all cases, be born via C-section. Yep. False. Now, it totally depends on your provider, where you live, and what options you have, and what breech position the baby is in. But I will say it is rare to see vaginal breech. I know in Atlanta, where I was practicing, there were 2 doctors that would do vaginal breech in some situations. Okay, let's see, 2 more. Babies can pivot and turn even after their head is engaged. So after their head is engaged, right? Can they still turn? Can they still make pivots? What do you guys think? That feels like kind of a tricky one. That's true. Babies still can pivot. They make small pivots. It's actually called cardinal movements that they make to get through. You guys are doing good. Last one. Position of the baby can have an impact on the length of labor and the pain experienced. Position of the baby can have an impact on length of labor and pain experienced. That's an easy one, I think. Yeah. Okay, game show over. Let me know in the comments. Do you like the game show? Should we keep it up? Should we do a different type of game show? I need some feedback. Let me know. Coping strategy today, guys. Coping strategy is, I know we only have 15 minutes left, but that is going to be plenty for us to learn this coping strategy. Now, what is exciting about it is that it is the strategy. This is the phrase that I use, that I came up with, or in my head, I use it. And it is, also, thank you. Thank you to Jeff. Thank you to Rosie. Keep the game show. Okay, liking the game show. Good. Okay. Oh, Shannon and hubby like the game show. I love that. Kim says, can we switch up the game shows? I got you. I totally understand. Yes. Okay. Here's this phrase. This strategy of coping, no one can take from you. What I mean by that is there isn't going to be a situation in your labor and birth, no matter what happens, unless you had to be put to sleep. Okay, that's the one. That's one small, very, very, very rare. But other than that, no one can take this strategy away from you. And what is interesting about it is that it has been, support the channel if you want. Breathing. Breathing is something that is like So core. And as a Lamaze certified childbirth educator, that was really the core that people know Lamaze for. Lamaze has grown and changed so much since then, but no one can take away this breathing strategy. It is so key. I love it because it can be used when you are going unmedicated. It can be used when you have an epidural. It can be used when you have a C-section. It can be used postpartum. And not only is it so useful, I'm not concerned with only having a few minutes to teach it because it's so easy to learn and it's so easy to do. The only hard part is remembering to do it. Now, if you are a support person, if you are a partner and you're watching or you're going to share this with your partner, I think partners are critical to this strategy because them doing two things, them watching to make sure you're not holding your breath and helping to facilitate the long, slow, deep breath that I'm going to show you it's just so critical. It's so helpful and so critical to have a support person be the one to watch breath. And it's basic, though it's also kind of, because it's something that you always have to watch, it can get so routine you forget about it, but you got to go back to it. So when I talk about coping strategies, I like to think of them, and I'm gonna do some more visuals for this. I haven't done it yet. I like to think of it like a cake, okay? Our coping strategies that I'm going to teach you in this class for the next, through the 14th, they're going to be able to be layered like a cake. So if you can imagine like 2-layer cake, a 5-layer cake, we can put all these together. So what we learned yesterday that you guys so nicely remembered in the chat, the limp and loose, the loosey-goosey, the jaw, the arms, all of that goes together with breathing. Breathing is our bottom layer. It's our foundation. And then we put on the limp and loose and all those relaxation strategies. Then together, we've got a nice way to cope with labor using both of those. Now, we're going to keep adding to those layers so that you guys have lots of options. But this one is one that you got to practice. You got to practice it. Unless you are someone who does deep yoga breathing or meditation where you focus on your breath, those people, golden. You've probably got this down and you're looking at me like, tell me something new, Alice. But for everybody else, which is probably most of us, most of you, let me know in the chat if this is something that you have spent time doing, focusing on your breath. What it looks like is the way I like to teach it. There are, varieties that you can do, but the easiest is a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And I want to show you the hand motions that I do when I support someone in birth as a doula, because I think they're very useful for partners to do in labor. So I want to show you the hand motions along with talking it through. It is a deep breath in. You can breathe in through your nose or your mouth. I don't think it matters. It's whatever is easiest for you. A pause and then a deep breath out. Slow, as long and slow as you can make it, the breath out. Okay? So super easy, right? This is easy. Let me show you it. Deep breath in. Pause. Deep breath in. Pause. That second one I did a lot slower. Deep breath in. See how I did kind of shook out So if you are support people, being able to mirror and show this. If you look over to your partner in labor and they're like, you do this. And then you're giving your partner something to do. You're giving them a mirror to go to and a strategy. So again, nose, mouth, doesn't care, doesn't matter. Holding your breath is not what we want. Holding our breath is not going to facilitate that open. It's not going to facilitate the helping release pain, okay? You can use this strategy. I'm going to try to pull up a handout real quick. You can use this strategy also when you're having vaginal exams. Cervical exams can be quite uncomfortable. And even if you're not having a contraction, you can use that breath. The breath is so powerful. I want to mention, I know yesterday I showed you the handouts for the limp and loose in labor. And one of the handouts, it's actually an ebook that's being included, that I'm including right now in that package that you can purchase for $8, 8 handouts, $8. I've included a bonus that is a ebook for partners. So it's 10 ways to be an excellent birth partner. And let me, I wanted to just share with you because, oops, let me make it bigger. There we go. One of the 10 ways in this ebook is, I call it the man in the mirror. And I called it that. Let me just full disclosure. It's my favorite Michael Jackson song, and it's catchy. But this is one of my top 10 ways to be an excellent partner, is to be a mirror. And this breathing is like, it goes together so well. Breathing, hand motions, and being that mirror. So the handouts are really worth it too. So links down below. And the handouts are cheat sheets. And you know when you had a test as a kid and they let you bring in like a note card filled with cheat sheets? That's what these are. These are like cheat sheets in labor. So those are available, and it's time for us to practice. Let me know in the chat if you're ready to practice. We are going to do a 30-second practice of the breathing. Now, if you were here or you watched the replay of yesterday and you remember some of those relaxation techniques of relaxing your jaw, hands up, shaking it out, layer those up together with the breath. So 30 seconds, again, is about the length of how some early labor contractions are like. So they're very realistic. Now, I was talking to my husband. He was watching a little bit of the live stream yesterday and giving me some feedback. And he said, oh, I think people left when you put on the 30-second practice. And I was like, dang it. That's the part I want everybody to stay. So I was trying to think of a different way to keep you and make sure that you stay for the practice. But I'm just going to say stay. So I'm going to put on the 30 seconds. My mic drops out. After it ends, you will see me back here. But everybody is going to do, if you are a partner, I want you to make sure you practice with the hand motions, even if you're by yourself. Okay? Try to make those breaths nice and long. Let's do it. Okay. Let me get my 30-second on the clock. Meet me back here, guys. You guys did it. Give me some feedback. What did you think? How did it feel? Did it feel easy? Like, got this? Or did taking those deep breaths be a little uncomfortable? Sometimes when we have a human sitting on our lungs and pushing them, it can make those deep breaths a little harder and not quite being able to fill up your lungs as much. Is anybody suffering from pregnancy sinusitis, where you're having a stuffy nose or your sinuses are stuffed up? That can also impact a little bit of that breathing. Yeah. Oh, Jeff, I love your comment. We got this. That is right. You got this. You got this. Lizbeth said, cause the baby to get hiccups. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I love this. Simone, relaxing. Keisha says relaxing. Kim in Kia's World said it was relaxing. I love it. That's what we want, relaxing. So this is an excellent to do when you are getting ready for the birth. I talk about all these coping strategies that you're going to learn. I really recommend practicing with those nice long breaths. It is such a great strategy because when you have practiced, it just becomes so easy and it becomes second nature. And you feel those contractions coming and you're like, okay, you saw me do it. I do this all the time. It's such great nonverbal communication. I walked into a birth recently and my client was having some significant labor and I just went like this. I had my mask on and everything. You know, it's kind of hard to communicate the breath when you've got the mask on. And I just went, and she just started nodding at me and was like, yes, that's right. That's what I'm supposed to do. So, okay, we have like 3 minutes. What are our questions? As you guys are putting questions in the chat, I want to give you a little heads up on just some general housekeeping things. Tomorrow's class, which is going to be just as good, same structure. We are talking I say this a lot, one of my most favorite topics. Do I say this about every topic? Probably. I'm just going to be honest, but it's a favorite topic of mine. And that's movement and labor and positions. I accidentally set up the playlist for this class, the additional videos. I accidentally set up tomorrow's class for movement. But the playlists are now all set up correctly. So when you get an email from me, if you are an insider, again, if you came in late and you missed that, down below, there is a link to sign up to be an insider. So you get all the information right to your inbox. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, that's another way to make sure you don't miss a class. Also, I didn't even mention what my kids love to say that I need to say. Smash the like button. Smash that like button if you found anything in this class important and helpful, because hitting the like button actually helps YouTube send this video out to more people who could find it useful. Okay, got some questions here. Shannon says, I feel baby kicking, punching on my sides and down low. Does it sound like he's breech? That could be breech. It depends on, and you know, if he is not, I don't know where you are in your pregnancy. If you're not near the end, then babies still do move around a lot. But if you're feeling a lot of hardness up high, then that might be baby's head. So good thing to ask your care provider next time you see them. I hope that helps. Let's see. Oh, Simone, she smashed it. She smashed the like button. I love it. I love it. Okay, Shannon, you're 31 weeks. Yeah. So Shannon, check out the Spinning Babies website, and there's a belly mapping tool that's going to give you more information about it. And you can always send me an email too. Let's see. Mandy says, can you define labor and when it actually begins? Oh, and I just realized we're at the end of our hour. I'm going to take a couple more questions. So hang in there with me, probably just 3 or 4 minutes. And if I didn't get to your question, make sure you put it in the comments of the video so I can get to it. When does labor actually begin? So labor begins, wow. That's a good question, Mandy. We're going to talk about the phases of labor in a few days. So early labor is not a defined set time. Labor is when you're having contractions that are timeable, that are rhythmic, that come in peaks, and that your cervix is changing. That's really on a regular basis. Labor progresses as contractions are longer, stronger, closer together. But we will get into those phases of labor more as we come up. Yeah, awesome, awesome. I see one more question before we go. Mandy said, how long can a baby be transverse? So transverse lie, I did not talk about that, where they're kind of like this before they're forced heads up and heads down. You know, usually babies take a position around week 30-ish, where they're no longer transverse. Transverse is a lot less common than vertex or breech. So in the 30-ish is usually when they start settling. Again, birth is a spectrum. Whew, it's very hard to give an exact, but that's about when. You guys are amazing. Let's see, let me grab a banner. Oh, the book is really worth it. No, the handouts are worth it. I'll leave that up. Please join me for class 3. It's tomorrow. It's the same place here in my office and in your location, wherever you're watching this. We are talking tomorrow about contractions. We're talking about contraction patterns, how they feel, Braxton Hicks, and we are also talking about my favorite topic, as opposed to all the other topics, movement and labor. So I'm going to be showing you positions. We'll probably, do some positions over here. I'll make sure that I have my window closed so that my neighbors across the way don't see me pretending to have a baby. It's going to be so much fun. And get the handouts, get the book if you want some more information. And I've got to do a shout out here to Tim. Tim is in the hospital. He and his partner, I'm guessing, are being induced. Good luck, Tim. I wish you a happy and safe labor. And hopefully tomorrow night you won't be joining us because you'll be busy with the little newborn. I hope everything goes smooth. Have patience. We will talk about, for those of you interested in hearing more about induction, it won't be in time for Tim, because it's going to be in a few days, but we will go through induction in detail because it is important. Tim, one of the most important things you can do in induction is to rest when you can. And don't forget, man, you can start that breath as soon as labor, if it hasn't, starts getting strong. But I wish you all the best. And thanks so much to all of you for showing up today and hanging out with me. I really appreciate your time. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.